I'm still surprised at how good the 500 PF is. And I've been shooting with it along with the 600 PF extensively. And I'm going to tell you everything you need to know to decide between these two lenses. Now you're in luck because both lenses are practically the same optically, at least in terms of sharpness and in terms of any other optical characteristics like vignetting. The bokeh looks very similar between the two lenses. So there are only other differences, non-optical differences, that you probably need to care about. So let's talk about the advantages of the 500 PF. The first advantage is that it's a bit smaller. The weight of the two lenses is almost the same, just a 10-gram difference. But the 500 PF is quite a little bit shorter, about 4.1 centimeters. Now you might not think that's a lot, but I feel that when shooting with the 500 PF, it is a lot lighter because the center of gravity is closer to the camera. So the 500 PF does feel a lot more compact, and the 600 PF does feel a little bit bulkier. It's longer and it's a little bit fatter too, so it has that extra bulk. Second advantage is the minimum focus distance. The 500 PF has 3 meters, whereas the 600 PF has 4 meters. Now, does this actually matter in practice? The magnification between the two lenses is not great. It's 0.18x for the 500 PF versus 0.15x for the 600 PF, but you do have that great difference in minimum focus distance. Now, I don't think it's a big deal for wildlife photography. I rarely get that close to my subjects to take photos of them at 3 meters. The one case where this is going to matter is places like tame urban parks where you have a lot of tame birds, and then you might be able to get that close to animals within 3 meters. And in that case, the 500 PF has a bit of an advantage. So if you do shoot in a lot of close quarters, you might actually prefer the minimum focus distance of the 500 PF, but otherwise, I never find the 4 meter minimum focus distance of the 600 PF to be a problem. Another advantage of the 500 PF is that it's cheaper. You can get it especially used for cheaper than the 600 PF. Now that's not always going to be the case, especially if you don't have access to used markets, and now the price of the 600 PF is coming down. But still, you can get the 500 PF for a little bit cheaper than the 600 PF. Another advantage of the 500 PF is that it can be used on DSLRs. Now, I know this is not going to be a good thing for everybody, especially if you don't have a DSLR, but the 500 PF can be used on DSLRs. And so if you have both mirrorless and DSLR cameras, you might find the versatility of being able to use it on a DSLR an advantage. I still have a D500. I just sent it into Nikon recently for cleaning, and it's still got a good amount of life left in it, and I still enjoy using the 500 PF on my D500. The final advantage of the 500 PF, it's not focused by wire. So when you turn the focus ring of the 500 PF, it actually turns the elements, changes the focus of the lens without it being attached to the camera. I kind of prefer this method of manual focus where the lens can actually be mechanically focused, whereas that's not true with the 600 PF, which is focused by wire. But again, that's not important for everybody, and I guess focus by wire does have some advantages as well. All right, now let's talk about the advantages of the 600 PF. And there are two main ones. The first, of course, is that the 600 PF is a native Z mount lens. Because it's made for the Nikon Z mount, it also does have a little bit better autofocus than the 500 PF on a Z camera using the FTZ adapter. Now, I don't find the difference between the focus of the lenses too great, but I do feel that the focus of the 600 PF is definitely a little bit more solid. It's not a huge difference, like I mentioned. The 500 PF works really well on Z cameras. I'm not trying to imply that it doesn't. But definitely the 600 PF has more solid and smooth autofocus on Nikon Z cameras. And the 600 PF being a Nikon Z mount lens means that it also can work with Synchro VR. Synchro VR isn't available on all Nikon cameras, but it is available on the later generation Nikon Z cameras. That means the VR of the lens can be used in conjunction with the IBIS of the body. In practice, I do find that the 600 PF works a little better than the 500 PF when shooting at very low shutter speeds. I can achieve very low shutter speeds with the 600 PF. I'm shocked at how low I can go sometimes. And of course, the real final advantage of the 600 PF is that it's 600 millimeters over 500 millimeters. Does this actually make a difference? Well, sometimes lenses do focus breathe at their minimum focus distance, but I did test both the 500 and the 600 at 4 meters, 5 meters, 6 meters, and 7 meters. And I did find that the ratio between the two focal lengths is pretty much exactly 1.2. So with the 600 PF, you are getting a 1.2 crop over the 500 PF, which is very useful in wildlife. and can give you more pixels on your subject. Here's a shot I took with the 500 PF, and this is what the crop would have looked like if I had taken the shot with the 600 PF. So you can see you get a fairly substantial crop. It's not a huge crop like a 1.5 crop, but a 1.2 crop does make a difference in getting more pixels on your subject. Conclusion: should you get the 500 PF or the 600 PF? Well, I think if you already have the 500 PF, it's a pretty good lens, and you might want to keep it because it's almost as good as the 600 PF. But the 600 PF does have those two advantages. It is a native Nikon Z lens, and it does give you that 1.2 crop. Whether that's worth it for you, you'll have to decide. So, I hope you enjoyed this video on the differences between the 500 and the 600 PF, and I'll see you again next time.